Joan Park floated through the corridor of Nexus 7, pushing himself gently from one handhole to the next. After 3 years on the station, moving in zero gravity felt as natural as walking had once been on Earth. The metal walls around him gleamed under the bright lights. This orbital station was huge, bigger than 5 football fields joined together, and represented the best work humans and aliens had done together. The Talax had arrived on Earth 10 years ago. The insect-like aliens stood taller than humans, with 4 arms and compound eyes that shimmered with colors. They had brought gifts of technology beyond human understanding. Their ships could travel faster than light. Their medicines could cure diseases humans thought impossible to treat. And they had offered to build this station together, as a place where both species could learn from each other. June checked his tablet as he approached the central hub. His job today was simple: check the oxygen recyclers in Section 8, then help calibrate the gravity generators in Section 10. Nothing unusual. He had done these tasks hundreds of times before. As he entered the central hub, he noticed something odd. 3 Talax engineers stood by a console, their thin fingers moving quickly over the controls. When they saw June, they stopped talking immediately. Their compound eyes, usually friendly with green and blue lights, now flashed red. "Good morning," June said with a smile. "Heavy workload today." The tallest Talax, named Arc 7, turned away without answering. The other 2 followed. June watched them leave, frowning. The Talax were normally polite, even friendly in their own strange way. This was new. Throughout the day, June noticed more strange behaviors. The Talax avoided the humans on the station. When he asked Han about it over lunch in the mess hall, his friend had noticed the same thing. Maybe they're preparing for some religious holiday, Han suggested, taking a bite of his synthetic protein bar. Remember last year when they all went quiet for 3 days? Maybe, June said, but something felt different this time. In the afternoon, June tried to enter Section 12 to check a report of a faulty air filter. His access card beeped red at the door. "Access denied," the computer said in its flat voice. "Section 12 restricted to authorized personnel only." June frowned. As lead maintenance engineer, he had access to every part of the station, except the Talax private quarters. He tried again with the same result, then called control. "This is June Park. I'm locked out of Section 12. The human operator sounded confused. "That's strange. Let me check. Looks like Captain Vix-9 ordered it restricted an hour ago." No reason given. June reported this to Station Commander Lee, who promised to speak with the Talax captain. But by evening, no explanation had come. "Maybe they're testing some new technology they're not ready to share," Minna suggested as their small group of humans gathered for dinner. 6 humans lived on the station permanently: June, Minna, Han, Kang, Sung, and Yuna. 4 others were visiting researchers who would leave next month. That night, June couldn't sleep. The strange behavior of the Talax kept him tossing in his small sleeping pod. Around 2 a.m., he gave up and decided to check on the systems in the maintenance hub. Perhaps some quiet work would help him relax. The corridors were unusually quiet. Normally, at least a few Talax would be active, as they required less sleep than humans. But Jun saw no one as he made his way to the maintenance hub. As he floated through the ship's central spine, he passed the escape pod bay and stopped. Something seemed wrong. He backtracked and looked closer. All 12 escape pod hatches showed the red empty light. That was impossible. The pods were always kept ready, with at least 10 available at any time. Some might be under maintenance, but never all of them. June was about to call security when the alarm blared. Red lights flashed along the corridor, and the computer's voice rang out. "Emergency alert. Hull breach detected in Section 14. All personnel report to emergency stations. Prepare for evacuation." June's heart raced. He pushed off hard, propelling himself toward his emergency station near the command center. His wristband beeped, and he checked the display. It showed atmospheric readings from throughout the station. Normal. Everywhere. There was no hull breach. The sensors showed no drop in pressure, no oxygen loss, nothing that would trigger an evacuation alert. "This is Jum Park," he said into his comm unit. "I'm seeing no signs of actual hull breach. Can anyone confirm?" No response came. He reached the command center and pushed through the door. The large circular room with its wall of screens and control stations was completely empty. No humans. No Talax. The screen still showed all systems operational, but one large display at the center showed a map of the solar system with a red line tracing from the station's position toward Earth. "Han. Mina." He called into his comm again. Anyone respond? After a moment, Han's voice came through, sounding confused. "Jum, what's happening?" "The alarms woke me up." "I don't know. Where are you?" "Still in my quarters. The computer told us to stay put, but I don't see any emergency." One by one, the other humans responded. All 5 permanent crew members were accounted for, but the 4 visiting researchers didn't answer. "Meet me at the command center," Jun ordered. "Something's wrong." While waiting, Jun checked the station's logs. What he found made his blood run cold. 6 hours ago, all escape pods had been launched. The Talax had left, taking the 4 visiting researchers with them. Why they took those 4 and left the permanent crew behind, Jun couldn't guess. When the others arrived, Jun was staring at the main navigation screen. "What's happening?" Yuna asked, her face pale with fear. Jun pointed to the screen. "The Talax are gone. They've taken all the escape pods." "Gone where?" Kang asked. "And why would they leave?" Jun touched the screen, bringing up the station's new trajectory. "Because they don't want to be here when this happens." The screen showed their path clearly now. Nexus 7 was heading directly toward Earth. A countdown timer flashed in the corner. 72, 14, 36, and counting down. "They aimed us at the Pacific Plate," Jones said quietly. "The impact calculations are precise. If we hit there at this speed..." He didn't need to finish. They all understood. The station would trigger earthquakes that would devastate the planet. "Can we change course?" Minna asked, her voice shaking. Jun tried the navigation controls. Locked out. "They've encrypted everything." The 6 humans stood in silence, watching the blue planet on the screen grow slowly larger as the countdown continued its merciless advance. The command center fell silent after Jun's announcement. The 6 humans stared at the screen showing their deadly course toward Earth, each lost in their own thoughts. The soft beeping of the countdown timer seemed to grow louder with each passing second. Yuna moved to a control panel and began checking readings. As the station's environmental specialist, she understood the life support systems better than anyone. Her fingers moved quickly over the touchscreen, her face growing more worried with each swipe. "We have 3 days before life support fails completely," she finally said, turning to face the others. The Talax shut down the main recyclers before they left. The backup systems are running, but they weren't designed to support 6 people for long. Kang slammed his fist against a wall. "Why would they do this? We worked with them for years." "We can figure that out later," Jum said firmly. "Right now, we need to focus on staying alive and stopping this station from hitting Earth." The others nodded. Despite their fear, they were all trained professionals. Jun looked at each of them. Yuna, the environmental specialist. Han, the systems engineer. Kang, the communications expert. Minna, the computer specialist. And Sung, the physicist. 6 humans, alone in a massive station, hurtling toward Earth as a weapon of mass destruction. "We need to work in teams," Joan decided. "Han, I need you to stabilize the oxygen recyclers. See if you can bypass the main systems and extend the backups." Han nodded, already thinking through the problem. "I might be able to reroute power from non-essential systems. That could buy us an extra day or 2. Kang and Minna, find us a way to communicate with Earth. The Talax must have blocked our normal channels, but there has to be another way." "What about you?" Yuna asked. Sung and I will try to access the navigation controls. We need to change our course. June looked at his watch. Let's meet back here in 6 hours to share what we found. The teams split up, moving with purpose through the station's corridors. June and Sung headed toward the navigation center, only to find the doors locked and the controls unresponsive. They thought of everything. Sung said, examining the sealed entrance. But there might be a back way through the maintenance tunnels. June nodded. The maintenance tunnels ran throughout the station like veins in a body. As lead maintenance engineer, he knew these passages better than anyone. They found an access panel and crawled inside. The tunnels were narrow, designed for repairs rather than comfort. Pipes and wires lined the walls, carrying power, water, and data throughout the station. June led the way, his flashlight cutting through the dim red emergency lighting. The navigation controls should be accessible through a junction in Section 9, June explained as they crawled. If we can reach it, we might be able to override the lock. They had been crawling for almost an hour when June noticed something strange, a section of wall that shouldn't be there. According to his mental map of the station, this wall wasn't in the original design. Hold on, he told Sung, examining the wall carefully. It looked like normal station material, but when he tapped it, it sounded different. This shouldn't be here. June ran his hands over the surface until he felt a slight seam. Pulling out his multi-tool, he worked the edge into the gap and pushed. With a soft click, a panel popped open, revealing the hidden compartment. What is that? Sung asked, moving closer to see. Inside the compartment was technology unlike anything they had seen before. Strange crystals glowed with inner light, connected by what looked like liquid metal flowing in precise patterns. The design was alien, but not in the way Talek's technology usually looked. This was something else entirely. I don't recognize this, Jun said, carefully examining the components without touching them. The Taleks never showed us anything like this. Sung's eyes widened as he studied the strange device. This isn't normal technology. The energy readings are off the charts. They found more hidden panels as they continued through the tunnels. Each contained similar technology, all connected in a network that spread throughout the station. This station was designed as a weapon from the beginning, Jun realized, examining the strange crystals and quantum circuitry. They'd been planning this for years. When they returned to the command center 6 hours later, the others were waiting with their own findings. I managed to stabilize the oxygen recyclers, Han reported. We now have about 5 days of air instead of 3. We found something too, Kang said. All normal communications are blocked, but we discovered an old emergency transmitter the Taleks didn't know about. It can't send much data, but we might be able to warn Earth. That's good, Jun said, because what Sung and I found is worse than we thought. He showed them images he had taken of the hidden technology. Everyone gathered around the screen, staring at the alien devices. We found these all over the station, hidden behind walls. The Taleks built this station around this technology. It's not like anything they ever shared with us. Sung connected his tablet to the main screen, showing readings he had taken. I've been analyzing the energy patterns. This creates a focused gravitational distortion. If it hits the fault line they're targeting, half the planet becomes uninhabitable. The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. The impact alone would cause massive damage. Sung continued, but this weapon amplifies it. When we hit, it will trigger earthquakes across the Pacific Ring of Fire. Tsunamis would wipe out coastal cities. Volcanic eruptions would follow. The death toll would be in the billions. Minna looked up from her tablet. I've been analyzing the Taleks communication logs. They didn't just leave. They're waiting. There's a fleet hiding behind Jupiter. I think they plan to come in after the impact, when Earth is vulnerable. This wasn't just a research station, Jun said quietly. It was a Trojan horse, and we helped them build it. Yuna walked to the window, looking out at the stars. So what do we do now? We can't change course. We can't stop the station. And even if we warn Earth, they can't shoot us down without triggering the weapon. June looked at the strange technology in the images, then at the timer still counting down, 64:22:17. "We do what engineers do," he said finally. "If we can't shut it down, we learn how it works, and then we turn it against them." The 6 humans looked at each other, a new determination in their eyes. They had been betrayed, but they weren't defeated yet. Somewhere in this station designed to destroy their world, there had to be a way to save it. The 6 humans worked tirelessly for the next 18 hours. They had split the station into sections, searching for more hidden technology and trying to understand how it all connected. The countdown now showed 46:7:53. Less than 2 days remained. June sat in what had once been the Talax captain's private office, surrounded by tablets and tools. The hidden panels they had discovered throughout the station appeared to connect to a central system here. Behind a false wall, they had found a strange chair-like device with crystalline structures that pulsed with dim light. "It looks like some kind of interface," Sung said, scanning the device with a handheld analyzer. "But nothing like the systems they showed us." June examined the chair carefully. It had spaces that would fit the Talax's 4-armed body perfectly. Near where their head would rest was a crown of crystal shards, pointing inward. "Neural interface," June muttered. "Has to be." All space engineers had basic neural implants. These small devices sat at the base of the skull, allowing direct connection to ship systems in emergencies. They were rarely used. Most engineers went their entire careers without activating them, but they could provide precise control when manual interfaces failed. "Could a human interface connect with this?" June asked, pointing to the crystal crown. Some looked doubtful. "Maybe, but our implants weren't designed for alien tech. The feedback could be dangerous." The door slid open and Yuna entered, carrying a tray of food packets. "You need to eat," she said, setting the tray down. When she saw what they were examining, she frowned. "What are you thinking?" "If this is their control system, it might give us access to their database," June explained. "We need to know what we're facing." Yuna shook her head firmly. "Too dangerous. Your implant could burn out. Or worse, burn out your brain." "We're running out of time," June said quietly. "Kang and Mina still can't break through the communication blackout completely. Han can't access the navigation controls. This might be our only chance." Yuna looked at him for a long moment. There has to be another way. But they all knew there wasn't. After eating quickly, Jun prepared himself. He removed his jacket and sat in the alien chair. It was uncomfortable, designed for a body with different proportions. The crystal crown hung above his head. "I've modified a converter to bridge our technology with theirs," Sung explained, attaching a small device to the base of Jun's skull where his implant was located. "This should provide some protection, but I don't know how much." Yuna stood by with medical equipment. "If your vitals drop too low, we pull you out. No arguments." Jun nodded. "Understood." He looked at his friends, trying to appear more confident than he felt. "Let's do this." Sung lowered the crystal crown until it almost touched Jun's head. "Ready?" Jun took a deep breath. "Ready." Sung activated the interface. The crystals glowed brighter, and Jun's body went rigid. His eyes widened, then squeezed shut as pain coursed through him. The pain. He gasped as strange symbols flooded his vision. It felt like fire in his veins, like his skull was being split open. The symbols swirled and shifted, patterns forming and breaking apart faster than he could follow. "Heart rate climbing," Yuna reported, watching the medical scanner. "Brain activity off the charts." Jun couldn't hear her. He was lost in a sea of information, drowning in alien thoughts and images. Slowly, painfully, patterns began to emerge. The symbols started to make sense, forming a language his mind could interpret. He saw images of the Talax homeworld, a massive planet with 3 moons. He saw their rise to power, their first contact with another intelligent species. He saw their ships surrounding an alien world, not unlike Earth, and he saw that world burning. More images came faster now. Another world and another. Species that looked nothing like humans or Talax, all meeting the same fate. Destruction. Extinction. The Talax arriving afterward to claim the resources of dead worlds. Minutes passed, though to Jun it felt like years. His body trembled and sweat poured down his face. Finally, Yuna could take no more. "That's enough," she said, reaching for the interface controls. "Wait," Sung said, pointing to Jun's face. His expression had changed. The pain was still there, but now there was something else. Understanding. Jun's eyes opened suddenly, and he gave a small nod. Sung deactivated the interface, and the crystal crown went dark. Jun slumped forward, breathing heavily. Yuna rushed to his side, checking his pupils with a small light. "I'm okay," Jun said weakly, though his pale face and trembling hands suggested otherwise. "Help me up." They supported him to a nearby chair. After drinking some water, color began to return to his face. The others had gathered, waiting anxiously to hear what he had learned. "They call us the Infestation," he told them, his voice hoarse. "They'd done this before to 7 other species. They share technology, build a weapon disguised as cooperation, then eliminate the potential competition." The room was silent as the implications sank in. "The Talax believe they are the only species worthy of space travel," Jun continued. "Any other intelligent life is seen as a threat to their expansion. They've been doing this for centuries, making contact, appearing friendly, then eliminating entire civilizations. But why build such an elaborate trap?" Han asked. "With their technology, they could have destroyed us directly." "Resources," Jun explained. "A direct attack would damage what they want to take. This way, they cause natural disasters that kill the population but leave the planet's resources intact. After the impact, they'll come in as saviors, offering to help the survivors. Within a generation, humans would be extinct, and they would have Earth." At that moment, Kang burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. "I did it. I broke through their communication block." Everyone turned to him. "You can contact Earth?" Minna asked. "Yes, but the signal is weak. We can send basic messages, but not much data." "Earth has no idea what's coming," Jun said. "We need to warn them." Kang nodded. "I've already sent an emergency signal. They're responding now." "Tell them everything," Jun said. "The impact, the weapon, the Talax plans." As Kang worked to communicate with Earth, Jun returned to the alien interface, studying it with new understanding. "There's something else I found," he said to Sung. "Something the Talax never anticipated." "What's that?" Sung asked. "Their technology responds to neural patterns. They never anticipated humans could interface with it." Jun pointed to the crystal components. "These respond to thought patterns, not just commands. The Talax use a rigid, hierarchical thinking process, but human minds are different, more adaptable, more creative." "Can we use that?" Han asked. "Can we stop the collision?" Jun shook his head. "No," he replied. "But we can change what happens when we hit." "What do you mean?" Yuna asked. Jun's eyes had a strange glint to them, something between fear and determination. "The gravitational weapon isn't just aimed at Earth. It's designed to focus at the point of impact. But with the right neural patterns, we might be able to redirect that focus." "Redirect it where?" Minna asked. Jun looked up at the ceiling, as if he could see through it to the stars beyond. "Back at them. They're waiting in the outer system, a fleet to help after the disaster. What if we turned their own weapon against them instead?" The others looked at each other, a flicker of hope appearing for the first time since the Talax had abandoned them. "Can you do it?" Sung asked. Jun looked at the alien interface, then at the countdown, 43:22:15. "I don't know," he admitted, "but we're going to try." The next morning, Jun sat once again in the alien interface chair. This would be his fourth connection in 24 hours. His face looked pale and thin, with dark circles under his eyes. Each connection drained him more than the last, but they had no choice. Time was running out. "Are you sure about this?" Yuna asked, checking his vital signs on her medical scanner. "Your body needs rest." "We only have 36 hours left," Jun said. "There's no time." Sung stood at the controls, his fingers hovering over the activation switch. "Ready when you are." Jun nodded. The crystal crown lowered, and pain shot through his body once more. This time, though, the initial shock faded faster. The alien symbols that had once seemed chaotic now made a strange kind of sense to him. It was like learning to read all over again, but with his entire nervous system instead of just his eyes. Through the connection, Jun could feel the station around him. Every system, every power conduit, every hidden weapon component hummed with energy he could now sense. Most importantly, he could feel the 12 main nodes of the gravitational weapon, positioned strategically throughout the station. 2 hours later, when Sung finally disconnected him, Jun barely felt the pain of separation. He stood up with new energy, despite how weak his body had become. "I understand it now," he said to the others who had gathered. "The weapon draws power from these 12 nodes." He pointed to a station diagram on the wall screen, marking each location with a touch of his finger. "They're designed to focus all their energy downward on impact. We're redirecting them outward instead of toward Earth." "Can you control them?" Han asked. "Not yet," Jun admitted, "but I'm learning. Their security is complex, but it's designed to keep out other Taleks, not humans. Our brains work differently. I'm finding shortcuts." Minna looked at the diagram. "Even if you can redirect the energy, we need a way to aim it. The weapon was designed for a single, fixed target." "That's where you come in," Jun said. "The communication arrays can be converted into targeting systems. They already track moving objects. They just need to be connected to the weapon nodes." Kang nodded. "I see what you mean. If we reroute the sensor data through these junction points." He began sketching on a tablet. Jun turned to Han. "We'll need more power than the station can generate normally. We'll have to repurpose the life support components." "But we need those to breathe," Yuna objected. "Not all of them," Jun said. "We only need enough life support to last until impact. After that." He didn't finish the sentence. They all knew there were only 2 possible outcomes, success or death. They split into teams again. Mina and Sung began the delicate work of converting the communication arrays. Han and Kang focused on the power systems. Yuna divided her time between monitoring everyone's health and helping where needed. And Jun continued to interface with the alien systems, pushing deeper into their programming. In the narrow maintenance tunnels, Han wiped sweat from his forehead as he carefully disconnected a life support processor. "Hand me the converter," he said to Kang, who passed him a device they had built from spare parts. "Do you think this will work?" Kang asked quietly. "This plan seems impossible." Han connected the converter to the power grid. "So does dying on a space station aimed at our planet. I'll take impossible odds over no odds." In the command center, Minna rewired a communication panel while Sung modified the software on his tablet. "The targeting algorithm is almost ready," he said. "But without testing, I can't be sure it will lock onto moving ships." "It has to," Minna replied simply, not looking up from her work. Meanwhile, Jun sat alone in a quiet room, eyes closed, mentally reviewing everything he had learned from the alien systems. Each connection was changing him. He could feel it, the alien patterns becoming part of his own thought processes. He should have been terrified, but somehow he wasn't. In a strange way, it felt right, like his mind was expanding beyond human limitations. When Yuna found him there hours later, she gasped softly, "Jun, are you okay?" He opened his eyes and turned to her. Yuna stepped back in shock. "Your eyes," she said. His normally brown eyes now contained flecks of metallic silver that seemed to shift and move like liquid. June touched his face. "What's wrong with them?" Yuna brought him a small mirror. He stared at his reflection, fascinated rather than frightened by the change. "It's spreading through my nervous system," he admitted, "but I can feel the station now. I understand its patterns." "Is it hurting you?" Yuna asked, scanning him with her medical device. June considered the question. "No, it's changing me. The interface was designed for Talak's minds, but it's adapting to mine instead." He looked at her, seeing the worry in her face. "Unstill me, Yuna. Just more." Later that day, they gathered again to share their progress. Only 22 hours remained until impact. "The targeting system is ready," Sun reported. "We've connected it to 8 of the 12 weapon nodes. Power redirection is at 70% capacity." Han added, "We should reach 90% by tomorrow." "I sent all the data we have to Earth," Kang said. "They're evacuating coastal areas, but there's not much else they can do to help us." June nodded. "Good work, everyone. One more day, and we'll be ready." The countdown reached 6 hours when they detected the signal. Alarms blinked on the command center screens. "Ships approaching," Kang called out, checking the radar. 3 Talax vessels. Everyone tensed. They weren't ready yet. The final connections hadn't been made, and Jum still needed one more interface session to complete the weapon redirection. "Why are they here?" Minna asked. "We're still far from Earth." June moved to the screen, his silver-flecked eyes reflecting the radar image. "They're coming to make sure their weapon deploys correctly," he said. A small smile appeared on his tired face. "Perfect timing." "Perfect? We're not ready," Han objected. "No," June agreed, "but we don't need to be." "Not yet." He turned to the others, his eyes now glowing slightly in the dim light of the command center. "They think we're helpless. They think this station is still their weapon. Let's let them keep thinking that." "What do you mean?" Sung asked. "I mean," Jum said, "they're going to help us finish our modifications. They just don't know it yet." He walked to the communication panel. "Let's welcome our old friends back aboard." The final hour approached. Inside Nexus 7, the 6 humans had transformed the command center into something new. Screens displayed unfamiliar symbols. Crystalline structures now grew from what had once been human control panels. Cables ran across the floor, connecting alien technology with human ingenuity. The countdown timer showed just 53 minutes remaining. June sat in a modified chair at the center of it all. The neural interface crown was now permanently fixed to his head, the crystals embedded in his skull. Silver lines ran beneath his skin from the connection points, tracing the paths of veins and nerves through his body. His eyes glowed with a metallic shine. "Final systems check," he said, his voice oddly calm despite everything. Han checked power levels on his tablet. All 12 nodes drawing power, 98% capacity. "Targeting systems online," Sun reported. "The gravitational focus can be directed at any point within 1,000 kilometers." Mina looked up from her station. "Communication rerouting complete. We can broadcast through the weapon frequency if needed." Kang monitored the deep space sensors. "Earth Defense Command confirms they're standing by. They can't help us directly, but they're ready to move once we—" He stopped suddenly, staring at his screen. Ships detected. Multiple Talax vessels approaching. Everyone tensed. Yuna moved to the main view screen and activated it. Outside, emerging from the darkness of space, 3 Talax ships approached the station. Then more appeared behind them. Soon, 12 ships surrounded Nexus 7, keeping their distance but clearly watching. "They're hailing us," Kang said, surprise in his voice. "They claim they're here to rescue survivors." On the communication screen, a Talax captain appeared. Its insect-like face filled the display, compound eyes flashing with green and blue lights. When it spoke, the station's translator converted its clicking language into human words. "Attention human survivors on Nexus 7. We have detected your station's malfunction. We are here to rescue you before impact. Prepare for emergency evacuation." The humans looked at each other. After all they had learned, the lie was almost funny. "They want to board the station," Han whispered, "to make sure the weapon activates properly. Or to kill us themselves," Minna added. Jun, still seated in his chair, smiled slightly. The expression looked strange on his changed face. "Transmit our prepared message," he said quietly. Kang nodded and pressed a button. The message they had recorded earlier began to play. On the screen, the lead Talax captain chittered in surprise as Jun's voice came through. "We appreciate your concern, but humanity doesn't need rescuing." The Talax captain's compound eyes flashed red, a sign of anger or alarm. It began to respond, but Jun cut the transmission. "They're powering weapons." Kang called out, checking the sensors. "Right on schedule," Jun said. He closed his glowing eyes for a moment, seeming to listen to something only he could hear. "The station is ready. The weapon is ours now." The others took their positions. This was the moment they had worked toward for 3 days. Success or failure would be determined in the next few minutes. 30 seconds to weapon activation, Sung announced, watching the power levels rise. Jun's body tensed in his chair. The silver lines beneath his skin glowed brighter as he connected more deeply to the station's systems. "I can feel their ships," he said softly. "I can feel where they are, how they move." Outside, the Talax ships began to close in on the station. Their weapons ports opened, glowing with energy. "They're firing," Kang shouted. The first shots hit the station, making it shake. Warning lights flashed as minor systems failed. "Hold steady," Jun said, his voice strangely distant now. "The weapon is almost ready." Han watched the power levels climb toward maximum. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Jun opened his eyes wide. Now. He activated the gravitational weapon. The entire station hummed with power. Instead of directing energy downward toward Earth as the Talax had planned, 12 beams shot outward toward the surrounding ships. The beams were invisible to the human eye, but their effects were immediate and catastrophic. On the view screens, they watched as the closest Talax ship began to crumple like paper. Its hull collapsed under impossible gravitational forces, metal folding in on itself. 2 more ships suffered the same fate, their structures crushed by gravity gone wild. "It's working," Minna cried out, watching the destruction with wide eyes. The remaining Talax ships tried to retreat, engines flaring as they attempted to escape the weapon's range. Most were too slow. One by one, they folded and collapsed, destroyed by the very weapon they had built to destroy Earth. But 3 ships managed to escape, fleeing at high speed toward the outer system. "They're heading back to their main fleet," Kang said, tracking their retreat, sending warning signals. "Let them run," Jun said. His voice sounded tired now, but satisfied. "Let them tell the others what happened here." The countdown timer still ran, now at 22 minutes until Earth impact, but that threat had passed. With the weapon firing outward instead of downward, the station's course was already changing, pushed off its collision path by the gravitational forces it was generating. "Earth Defense Command is hailing us," Kang reported. A human face appeared on the screen. A woman in a military uniform, her expression a mixture of amazement and concern. "Nexus 7. This is Admiral Lee. What's happening up there? Our sensors show the station has changed course." "We've reprogrammed the station," Jun explained to Earth Command. His appearance clearly shocked the Admiral, but she hid it well. "It's now humanity's most powerful defensive platform." "How did you?" she began, but stopped herself. "Never mind. The important thing is you've saved millions of lives. Rescue ships are on their way to retrieve you." After the transmission ended, the 6 humans looked at each other with exhausted smiles. They had done the impossible. They had survived, and they had saved their world. Yuna approached Jun, who remained connected to the chair. Medical scanner in hand, She checked his vital signs. "The connection to the alien systems is deep now," she said quietly. "I don't know if it can be reversed." Yuna touched his shoulder gently. "What about you?" June looked at his reflection in a nearby screen, at the silver that had spread across his skin where the implant connected. His eyes no longer looked human, but they still held human warmth and intelligence. "I'm something new," he said. "Something they never expected. A human who understands their technology better than they do." In the days that followed, rescue ships arrived from Earth. The 5 other crew members returned home as heroes. June, however, chose to stay on Nexus 7. His connection to the station was too complete, too important to break. The Talax fleet, warned by the 3 escaping ships, retreated from the solar system. Probes sent to the edge of the solar system confirmed their departure. Humanity had not only survived but emerged stronger, with new technology and knowledge from their would-be destroyers. And at the edge of Earth's orbit, Nexus 7 remained, transformed from a weapon into a shield. Inside, June continued to explore the alien systems, learning and growing. His body might no longer be fully human, but his heart and mind remained dedicated to protecting his species. When other ships visited the station, they found a strange being waiting for them. Part man, part machine, part alien technology. But when he greeted them, his smile was still human, and his first questions were always about home. The end.